Chernobyl. In 1986, a reactor in the Soviet Union exploded and released 400 times more radioactive material than the Hiroshima bomb. Reactor number 4 was one of the most powerful on Earth. One night, engineers ran a routine safety test. But the Soviet design had a fatal flaw. When its cooling water boiled off, the reaction sped up instead of slowing. Power surged to 100 times the reactor's limit. 2 explosions ripped the building open and threw a 1,000-ton lid into the sky. Firefighters rushed in first. Nobody told them it was radioactive. 28 of them were dead within weeks. Next door, Pripyat slept. 50,000 people weren't evacuated for 36 hours and were told they'd be home in 3 days. Beneath the reactor, molten fuel burned toward water. Scientists feared a steam explosion, so 3 men volunteered to wade in and drain it. For years, people believed all 3 of them died. They didn't. 2 are still alive today. On the roof, radiation fried the cleanup robots, so soldiers cleared it by hand, 90 seconds each, then they ran. Helicopters dumped 5,000 tons of sand, clay, and lead onto the burning core to smother it. In all, 600,000 people were sent in to clean up the zone. They were called the liquidators. A 30-kilometer exclusion zone was sealed off. 350,000 people lost their homes for good. The real death toll is still fiercely debated. 31 died right away. Long-term, the estimates range from 4,000 into the tens of thousands. Today, Pripyat sits frozen in time, but the empty zone is now one of Europe's richest wildlife havens. Proof that its deadliest threat was never radiation. It was us. Fukushima. Everyone thinks Fukushima's radiation killed thousands of people. It didn't. The real death toll came from a wall of water, not from the reactors. March 11th, 2011. Off the coast of Japan, the seafloor rips open in a magnitude 9.0 earthquake, one of the biggest ever recorded. 40 minutes after the quake, a tsunami as tall as a 4-story building rushes toward the coast. 15 meters of water. The plant's seawall was built for less than half that. The wave crashes over the wall and floods the basements where the backup generators sit. In an instant, the pumps die. The reactors are still blazing hot with nowhere for the heat to go. This is the nightmare scenario. No power means no cooling. Deep inside 3 reactors, the fuel starts to overheat and melt itself into a molten heap. Then it happens. Hydrogen explosions blow the tops clean off reactor buildings, hurling concrete into the sky on live television as the whole world watches. Watching those explosions, people assumed it was a nuclear bomb going off. It wasn't. The reactors couldn't explode like a bomb. It was hydrogen tearing the outer buildings apart. More than 100,000 people fled their homes. Entire towns emptied out in a day, leaving pets, farms, and unfinished dinners behind. Here's the part almost nobody gets right. Of the roughly 19,500 people killed that day, essentially all of them died from the earthquake and the tsunami, not radiation. The number of people killed directly by radiation from the reactors was, remarkably, 0. Years later, Japan recognized just 1 worker's cancer death as linked to the exposure. But the evacuation itself was deadly in a quieter way. The stress of being uprooted, mostly for elderly people in poor health, led to more than 2,000 disaster-related deaths. Today, the plant sits silent by the same sea that drowned it, slowly being taken apart piece by piece in a cleanup that will last decades. Fukushima wasn't the meltdown that killed thousands. It was the wave that did, and the fear that followed. And it's still not the deadliest name on this list. Kyshtym. This is the worst nuclear disaster you have probably never heard of. For 30 years, almost no one on Earth knew it happened, and that was exactly the plan. The town was called Chelyabinsk 40. Officially, it did not exist. Its workers built plutonium for the Soviet atomic bomb. The plant made deadly radioactive waste. They pumped this glowing sludge into huge steel tanks and buried them in the ground. Then one tank's cooling system broke. Nobody fixed it. For over a year, the waste inside just got hotter and hotter and hotter. On September 29, 1957, the tank exploded. Not a nuclear blast, a chemical one, with the force of up to 100 tons of dynamite. The blast hurled a concrete lid weighing many tons into the sky and threw radioactive dust nearly a mile up into the air. There was no fireball to see for long. The real danger was invisible, an unseen cloud of radiation drifting silently on the wind. Scientists later named this scar the East Urals radioactive trace. It smothered more than 15,000 square miles of farms, rivers, and villages. Inside that zone lived around 270,000 people. Farmers, children, whole towns, none of them warned. People kept eating the crops. Kids kept playing in the dust. The government said absolutely nothing. Around 10 to 12,000 people were forced to abandon their homes. Some villages waited nearly 2 years to be moved. The Soviet Union denied it for 30 years. Not until 1989 did they finally admit the truth. One broken cooling pipe, one buried tank. One of the worst nuclear disasters in history, hidden in plain sight for a generation. 3 Mile Island. 4 in the morning. Inside this reactor, the nuclear core is melting, metal glowing past 4,000 degrees, and the men in the control room have no idea it's happening. This is 3 Mile Island, Pennsylvania, March 28, 1979. It's about to become the worst nuclear accident in American history. But a pressure valve at the top of the reactor pops open to let off steam. Then it jams, stuck wide open, and the reactor's precious cooling water starts pouring out. Here's the killer. The control panel tells the operators the valve is closed. The light says shut, but it's lying. The valve is open and no one knows. The core needs water to stay cool, but the gauges look weird, so the operators do the exact wrong thing. They turn the emergency water down. Without water, the fuel rods bake in the open air. The temperature rockets past 4,000 degrees, and the top of the nuclear core begins to melt into slag. As the fuel melts, it reacts with steam and creates something terrifying. A giant bubble of hydrogen gas trapped inside the reactor, and everyone's afraid it might explode. Then a horrible coincidence. Just 12 days earlier, Hollywood released a movie about a reactor melting down and poisoning a city. The governor told pregnant women and small children within 5 miles to leave. That was the spark. Panic spread far beyond the danger zone. Roughly 140,000 people fled the area on their own. Cars jammed the highways. It felt like the end of the world was coming to Pennsylvania. The reactor was saved. It never burst. And here's the part that surprises everyone. Not a single person was killed. Nobody was even injured. America stopped building nuclear plants. For 30 years, not one new reactor was ordered. 3 Mile Island didn't kill people. It killed American nuclear power. The scariest disaster on this list barely spilled a drop of radiation, and still it changed a nation. Fear, it turns out, can be more powerful than fallout. Windscale. October 1957. On the English coast, the reactor Britain kept secret from the world is on fire, and the men inside have no idea how to put it out. This reactor wasn't built for electricity. It was built for a bomb. 2 giant reactors rose on the Cumbrian coast, the Windscale piles. Inside each, uranium fuel sat packed in a huge block of graphite, cooled by air blown straight up the chimney. So engineers deliberately warmed the core now and then to leak that energy out safely. They called it annealing. It was routine, until it wasn't. The uranium began to overheat, but the thermometers were in the wrong spots. For 2 days, the reactor was quietly cooking itself, and nobody knew. Then a radiation alarm spiked. An operator opened a channel to look inside and saw the uranium glowing cherry red. The core was on fire. It was a nightmare. The reactor was air-cooled, so blowing air just fed the flames. Now the graphite itself was burning. One option was left, and it terrified them. Water. Poured on white-hot uranium, water can rip apart, free hydrogen, and hydrogen explodes. They took the gamble. Hoses on, everyone cleared out, and they waited for the blast. It never came. Hour by hour, the water beat the fire down. They mocked them as Cockcroft's folly. During the fire, those useless filters trapped most of the deadliest particles and saved thousands. Still, iodine had landed on the grass, and cows ate the grass. So across 500 square kilometers, milk was seized and poured straight into the rivers and sea. No one died that day. But scientists estimate the released radiation may have caused a couple hundred cancer cases over the decades that followed. Pile 1 was sealed shut, still full of damaged fuel, too radioactive to fully clean out even today. Britain got its bomb, but it never forgot the price. Goiânia. It glowed a beautiful electric blue in the dark. Everyone who touched it was fascinated. Not one of them knew it was killing them. September 1987 in the Brazilian city of Goiânia. On a quiet street stood an abandoned cancer clinic, half torn down, its doors left wide open. 2 scavengers slipped in looking for scrap metal to sell. They found the heavy machine, wrestled the core loose, and hauled it home in a wheelbarrow. In a backyard, they attacked it with tools, trying to break it apart. After days of prying, the capsule finally cracked open, and out spilled a powder that glowed a deep, glowing blue. In the dark, it shone like something magical. They had never seen anything like it. He invited friends and relatives to come and see. People marveled at the blue glow. Some rubbed it on their skin like glitter, delighted at how it made them shine. Among them was a little girl, just 6 years old. Her name was Leedy. She was enchanted by the shimmering blue dust, the prettiest thing she had ever seen. She played in it. She smeared it on her body. And as she sat on the floor eating, she swallowed some of the glowing powder without a second thought. Nobody knew. The blue glow was invisible death. With every hour, that powder was tearing apart the cells of everyone who had touched it. Doctors were baffled at first until a physicist finally understood. This was radiation. An entire neighborhood had been poisoned by the beautiful blue powder. The city panicked. Around 112,000 people lined up to be scanned for contamination, terrified of what the glow had done to them. Little Lyda died within weeks. So did the woman who had gathered everyone to see the glow. 2 men who first cracked it open died as well. It remains one of the worst radiological disasters in history. A whole city learned the hardest truth, that the most beautiful glow can be the deadliest. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more stories like this one.